Hello and welcome to the first episode of my brand new sports show called CorbiCenter here at Man Cave Studios. Coming up, we've got your top plays of the past week, an update on where things stand with the Flyers and Sixers, my predictions for who's going to play in Super Bowl 55, and more. Stay tuned. First, let's kick this show off with a bit of news from around the sports world. The biggest news of the past week coming out of New York City. The Nets and Rockets took part in a 4-team trade that sent James Harden to Brooklyn, making a Nets vs. Lakers final the most likely matchup this year, according to Vegas Insider. In hockey news, the Dallas Stars will be starting their season a bit later than the other teams after 17 players tested positive for COVID-19 prior to opening night. Both of the games against the Florida Panthers were postponed, and the reigning Western Conference champions are now set to begin their season next Friday. Over in the UK, Manchester United and Liverpool battled it out this Sunday for first place in the English Premier League, with the two sides drawing at 0-0. Manchester United remain atop the league table by 2 points as Leicester climbs to second in the standings. And finally, in the NFL, the conference championship round is set. The Packers took down the Rams 32-18 on Saturday to advance to their second NFC Championship game in a row, and the Bills beat the Ravens 17-3 to advance to their first AFC Championship game since 1993. The Chiefs held on to beat the Browns on Sunday after Patrick Mahomes left the game in the third quarter, and the Buccaneers upset the Saints in New Orleans by a score of 30-20. Now let's take a look at some of the top plays from around the sports world this past week. Coming in at number 5, we'll take it to the NHL. Tanner Pearson beats two Oilers defenders, gets it to Bo Horvat, wide open shot. Vancouver went on to win that game 5-3. Look at this. Wide open to Bo Horvat. Great pass, though. Coming in at number 4, let's take it to the NBA. This underappreciated moment from the Sixers Heat game the other night. Shake Milton with time winding down on the shot clock and in the quarter. Shake Milton drains a 3. Sixers went to sweep that series. Coming in at number 3, Aaron Rodgers doing Aaron Rodgers things. Drops it in to Lazard. Packers won 32-18. They're going to play the Buccaneers next weekend in the NFC Championship game. Coming in at number 2 now, we'll take it back to the NHL. With time winding down, Minnesota Wild down by 1. They score with less than a second remaining in the third period. Minnesota went on to win in overtime. Look at this. With 1 second remaining in the period, gets the shot off and beats Jonathan Quick. And number 1 from the Bills vs. Ravens game the other night. Lamar Jackson steps back, throws, picked off by Taron Johnson, and Johnson, he could go all the way. Taron Johnson with a 101-yard pick 6 ties an NFL record, and those are your plays of the week. Now, in this next part of the show, I'll be going over some of the news specific to teams that play off South Broad Street in Philadelphia. We'll start today with the Flyers, who won their season opener against Pittsburgh last Wednesday by a score of 6-3. Several heartwarming moments occurred throughout the game, with Oscar Lindblom and Nolan Patrick scoring in their first games back at the Wells Fargo Center in over a year, almost 2 for Nolan. Joel Farabee also had a 4-point night, and Gritty's hero Kevin Hayes even scored. A couple of nights later, Travis Konechny led the Flyers to a 5-2 win with the team's first hat trick of the season to complete the 2-game sweep over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sean Couturier was injured early in the game, and it was announced on Saturday he would be out of the lineup for at least 2 weeks, unfortunately. As mentioned before, the Brooklyn Nets signed James Harden last week, to the dismay of us Sixers fans. He will be joining Kevin Durant, Spencer Dinwiddie, and I think that's it, right? Yep, that's it, because Kyrie's absent. The Sixers also had a game postponed on Sunday after not being able to field enough players due to the NBA's contact tracing protocols. Their next game is scheduled for Wednesday at 7 p.m. against the Boston Celtics. The Flyers are currently perfect at 2-0-0, and the Sixers are 9-5 and 4th in the Eastern Conference. So now with that, let's take a look at our Philadelphia Athlete of the Week. Our Philadelphia Athlete of the Week this week is Travis Konechny. Travis picked up a hat trick in Friday's 5-2 win over the Penguins and picked up another point with the assist on Oscar Lindblom's goal in the season opener. Konechny is tied for first in the league in points as of Sunday night and will most likely be leading the first line in the absence of Sean Couturier for the next couple of weeks. Now, in this part of the show, I'm going to give my sometimes controversial opinions on things that are happening in the sports world, and I'm going to kick it off today with the NBA. The question that's been on a lot of NBA fans' minds: should the NBA season be suspended because of all the positive COVID-19 tests? And for this, I'm going to have to say no, but there are a lot of moving pieces with this. I feel like if the NBA suspends its season, it's saying that it's failed to adapt to COVID in a non-bubble format. And the league cannot afford to play in a bubble again at this point. It cost them a lot of money to do it for the playoffs last year, and pretty much every sports league at this point is losing a ton of money because of not being able to have fans in the stadiums and stuff like that. The NFL is not losing as much money because they're allowing some fans in the stadium because it's most of the stadiums are outdoor and they're socially distanced, and some of them aren't socially distancing fans, but that's I guess their problem. But I don't think you can suspend the NBA season from a PR standpoint because that, like I said, that would basically be giving in to COVID, saying that we weren't able to figure out how to avoid this, and saying, the players are irresponsible because they were, for example, with Kyrie, they saw him partying. There have been instances where NFL players have been caught partying, in large groups and stuff like that. And so I don't think you should suspend it. Everybody definitely needs a little bit of entertainment right now. But I feel like if the NBA suspends its season, it would be alone this time. The last time when it suspended its season, it's because one player tested positive. But if you suspend your season now, you're saying that enough players have tested positive and we haven't prepared enough to avoid this, that and as a result, we are doing a worse job than the other leagues in containing this. Even though that might not be the case, because the NFL did have a serious outbreak over the course of the regular season, and even now a bit in the playoffs, I think. But at the same time, you can't make teams play games when they're undermanned. So the Sixers versus Nuggets game from last week, that should have been postponed because they were missing pretty much the entire starting lineup for that game. They were missing Seth Curry because he tested positive for COVID, and then as a result with contact tracing and all that, Ben Simmons was out for a game. Tobias Harris was out for about a week. You had Joel Embiid, who was out for, I think, a game or two. I don't remember how many games exactly, but he was definitely out for the Nuggets game, and I believe he was out. He was out for the game yesterday because of he was out for the game on Saturday because of back soreness. And they were missing Danny Green, I believe, and most of their bench. So you can't have Tyrese Maxey, a rookie, carrying your team, and you can't have eight young players having to pick up the slack of a team that is used to having 5 guys that have been around in the league for a few years and 5 guys that are high draft picks, to say the least, filling in their roles. So moving on, I'm going to touch on all the sports in this first episode. The NHL, who are the favorites for each division? Originally, I'm going to go from west to east with Central and North in the middle. In the West, what I originally said was that the Blues would win it after the first game because I thought that Colorado looked flat, and I thought, hey, maybe the Blues are an underdog team. And then the Blues got blanked by Colorado, 8-0. So I'm going to have to go back on that and say that the Avalanche are going to win the West. They're clearly, in my opinion, are the favorite to win the Cup after that game alone, because the Blues aren't a bad team. And I think that the Blues are going to make the playoffs, and they're probably going to be the second or third seed in the West. So I would say the Avalanche first in that division, and then the Blues second or third. In the Central, I have to go with the Lightning. That division has, I think, the Lightning, the Hurricanes, and the Stars are the big teams in that division. I think that the Lightning are going to win again. They have a pretty good team, even without Kucherov. The real question is going to be if Steven Stamkos can stay healthy. If he can, I think that the Lightning have a chance to win the division. If he doesn't, and the Lightning succumb to injuries, especially on offense, which is their powerhouse aside from goaltending, then it might be tough for them. If Dallas can get past this COVID phase and Carolina can make a surprise run, we'll see. But I think that as of right now, the Lightning are probably the favorites for the Central. In the North, it's kind of a toss-up in the North. You could go with the Oilers. You could go with even maybe Vancouver. I'm going to go with the Leafs just because I feel like they have enough talent this year, and even though they lost to the Senators the other night, I don't pay too much attention, or I'm not paying too much attention to the North Division. But I feel like the Leafs could definitely have a chance at winning in the North. And then in the East, I have to go with the Capitals. Even as a Flyers fan, the Capitals, I would have originally had the Flyers before Sean Couturier went out. But now that Sean Couturier is out for at least 2 weeks, and it could be more, I think that the Capitals have the most depth. We'll see if their goaltending holds up. They lost in overtime to the Penguins today. Right now they are in first in the East. We'll see how the Flyers play without Sean Couturier. But if they, Sean Couturier is such a big part of their team. So if they can't get it together, I shouldn't say get it together because they won the other night. But if they can't keep winning games even without Couturier, then they're probably going to have a bit of a problem there. But I still think that the Flyers are a lock for the playoffs. It's just maybe not first in the East if Couturier is out for longer than expected and the surrounding team can't pick up the slack. But Joel Farabee had a pretty good game in the season opener. Travis Konechny had a great game in the second game against Pittsburgh, so it's looking promising for Philly now. If someone can step up every night like that for the next 2+ weeks, then I think that the Flyers are going to win the division. But if they can't, I'm going to go with the Capitals, which is going to be my official pick right now. With the MLB, should the season be postponed? There's a lot of talk that the MLB is going to lose a ton of money. It's really an executive decision, but if the MLB is planning on playing the season starting in April, I don't know if they're planning on doing spring training in March. I don't think you can do anything in March if you expect to have fans, but I think if you're going to lose money, it's wise to postpone it until May or June, which is what they're saying right now, when you can have at least 75% capacity in the stadiums after a majority of people are vaccinated. I don't know if they're going to require proof of vaccination to enter the stadiums. They might not. We'll see, I guess, if they have 75% capacity. It won't be so much of a problem with Orioles games and even Phillies games, teams that don't traditionally fill up the stadium, the Rays games. But maybe in Yankee Stadium and places like that, there might be a bit of a problem with letting a bunch of fans back in at once. So they might wait until those big markets can be at least 75% capacity. When those big markets finally, the surrounding cities finally get enough people vaccinated that it's okay to go to these games and not have to socially distance or wear masks anymore, which should be at some point early on in the summer. But I think that the MLB should postpone the season. They should plan on a 100 to 110 game season, and we'll see what they do. But I think that it would be wise to announce you're postponing the season at least sometime in the next few weeks, so that you have enough time to get fans, prepared for not being able to watch baseball still, and you have at least enough time to plan. And then for my Super Bowl pick going to the NFL, my current pick is the Packers versus Chiefs as a throwback to Super Bowl I. I don't want to see Brady in it again. I don't, the Buccaneers have so much talent, and if the Buccaneers make it, everybody will call Brady the GOAT again. It'll be it'll be the same stuff that we've been hearing for the last 10 years or whatever. And whatever. But in terms of the NFC, in terms of the AFC, my apologies. I see the Chiefs beating the Bills. The Bills got pretty far, but I think that if Patrick Mahomes is back next week, we'll see what they announce. His injury is. I'm recording this late Sunday night. They haven't announced anything yet, but I guess we'll see what his injury is. If he's not back, then I think probably the Bills will advance, but assuming that he's back, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Packers-Chiefs. So anyway, that's going to be it for this inaugural episode of CorbiCenter. Make sure to follow Man Cave Studios on Twitter for updates. That link will be down in the description. And subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on CorbiCenter.